Hey guys, so welcome to the first ever episode of the Diary of a Female Lawyer. I'm so excited to be finally launching this thing. I've been planning it for quite some time now, so I'm so happy that it's finally happening. Um, this first podcast is going to be all about me. Don't worry, it's not going to be too long, and I'll try my best not to bore you. Um, it's just going to be really talking about me, my journey from studying law through to practice, and then obviously onto what I'm doing now. Um, so here goes, I guess. Um, so I'm Lucy. I'm a non-practicing solicitor and a law lecturer from Nottingham. Outside of work, I love to travel, spend time with friends and family, go to gigs and festivals, watch football. So, anyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge Nottingham Forest fan. I love spending time at the City Ground. Big up my boys. We're going to do Champions League football next season. I've got a dog called Ray. You can probably see him mooching around in the background every so often. He's half Frenchy, half pug, so he's a frog. He's named Ray after the Jamaican rum, Ray and Nephew, which can be at times pretty lethal. Um, so yeah, no doubt Ray will make some appearances on the podcast as well. I always think it's really important to, discuss what you do outside of work as well, because, being a lawyer isn't, the only thing about it. It doesn't define us. We do have lives outside of work. And I think it's, really important that we find that balance. So don't forget that. Like I say, I don't want to bang on too much, but I think it's important that we discuss our backgrounds, where we come from, and how we got into law or what made us want to become lawyers. Um, so my background, I'm quarter Jamaican. So my granddad on my dad's side was Jamaican. My mum's side of the family are white British. I had a pretty good education, went to decent schools. I don't think I wanted to know, or I knew, what I wanted to do personally um, with my life and my career early on. Um, I was pushed a lot into the whole law career. I'd say mainly by my mama. She worked in a law firm as a cleaner for the majority of her life, as did her mum, so my great grandma, and my mum as well, and some of my aunties. So I remember when I used to be a little kid, I used to go with my mum at night, and she used to clean the offices, and I used to go with her, and I used to sit at the solicitor's desks, flicking through the books, writing at the desks, pretending I was a solicitor. Some of them, would still be there because we work late hours. So, I'd end up chatting to some of the solicitors as well. So I think that's really one of the main reasons why I went into the legal profession, just, having exposure to it from an early age, and, with influences from family members as well. I actually went back to work at that law firm for a little bit. So yeah, it was a bit surreal and a bit of a full circle moment for me working there. Um, I think as well I chose law because I got the grades to, be able to go on to pursue it at uni. And honestly, I thought, that's where I'll make my money. I thought there was a lot of money in law. I thought it would open up a lot more doors, a lot more opportunities as well. Um, but I think deep down and looking back now, I probably had more of a passion for teaching. Um, but I don't regret my career choice. I don't regret going to university to study law. I don't think you can ever regret gaining a qualification or experience. And in actual fact, it worked out pretty well for me. I did my LLB full time at Nottingham Trent Uni, so Nottingham Law School. I got a 2-1, which I was, really pleased with. A lot of my students would be massively disappointed if they came out with a 2-1. A lot of them just want a first, which, great. Always good to have that passion, have that, ambition, the drive to go and get a first. And a lot of my students do. They do go on to get first, but it's not really the end of the world if you don't get a first. I got 2-1, and everything was fine in terms of how my career worked out. So yeah, don't put too much pressure on yourself, is what I'd say in terms of, your university grade overall. So yeah, after I got my law degree, I took a year out because, again, I still wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to then go on and do the LPC and then, progress onto working in practice and actually being a qualified solicitor. So yeah, I took a year out, worked at my local Sainsbury's, where I worked throughout sixth form and uni anyway. So I just took out more hours there. I worked also at the hospital outpatients on reception, just so I could again get an experience in a different area, and just to consider my options really, and what I actually wanted to do. But yeah, I soon realised that I did want to go on and do the LPC. I think part of me thought that it would be a waste if I didn't, and it actually absolutely isn't if you don't go on to do the LPC and the SQE now. It's really not a waste, but I think at that time it was the only kind of thing I could see that was worth pursuing. So yeah, so went on to do the LPC, and I studied the LPC at Nottingham Trent University again, Nottingham Law School. I actually really liked the LPC. I loved uni as well, don't get me wrong, but I kind of loved the whole practical side of studying rather than the theoretical side and reading all the case law. I liked applying the knowledge to real world, real life scenarios. I actually didn't go away for university. I stayed at home, so I lived at home with my parents. I didn't live in halls or anything like that. So in essence, I saved quite a lot of money. Didn't have as much student debt as a lot of my friends that came out of uni with. But sometimes I do look back and think, did I get that, proper student experience? Still went on nights out, with my friends, and I'd, stay at their houses and whatever after a night out. But yeah, some part of me regrets not, going away and having that full independence university experience of having to do your own washing, cleaning, having no responsibility, or very little responsibility, should I say. But yeah, again, I don't regret it. It was just the journey that I decided to choose. It worked out in the sense that I had less student debt, but maybe I didn't get the full blown experience that I could have got if I'd have gone away to university. But yeah, I made some amazing friends at uni, despite not having the full uni experience. Still speak to a lot of them now, and hopefully some of them will make an appearance on this podcast as well. So yeah, that was my educational journey. I did find both undergrad and LPC challenging. It's not easy, and with the SQE now, talking in terms of today's legal education, it's hard work. It's full on. It's complex. There's a lot to do. It's not an easy journey. It's not an easy ride. So just brace yourself for that. Don't expect to be handed a law degree, you know, SQE qualifications on a plate is hard work. So when it comes to jobs, I was super lucky. My cousin's husband was an associate at the time at a law firm, criminal law firm in Nottingham. And he said to me, look, I'll get you the interview, but that's all I can do. You've got to do the rest of the hard work yourself. So I was like, that is absolutely fine. I am totally happy with that. You know, appreciate the opportunity that you've given me. So I went along to the interview, and yeah, they said, you're going to have to work free for a month. Obviously, they wanted to see what I was like, whether, you know, I was good enough for the job. So I did. I worked free for a month. Some of my friends that I'd met at uni were working there as well, so that was nice. But yeah, sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. So again, bear that in mind. So I worked for a month for free, and then I got the job, and I was working in the criminal department, and it was mainly police station repping. So, you know, going to police station, representing clients that were in custody in the cells, and were going through to interview. So, 24 hours in police custody brings back some absolutely great memories from when I used to do that. Um, it was super exciting. You always got a rush, but it wasn't great in the sense that when you were on call, you could be called out at 3 o'clock in the morning, be at the police station till 5, 6, and then, you know, have to go on to work the following day. So it wasn't always great from that point of view. But yeah, I worked in that department for 6 months or so. And then I moved to a department that dealt with judicial review applications for overstayers, homeless people, refugees, asylum seekers. It was massively interesting, but it wasn't an area of law that I wanted to specialise in or work in long term. Um, Plus, there was absolutely no way that I was going to get a training contract at that firm. There were a few other paralegals, you know, in front of me in the run up for a training contract there. So I applied to another firm, and the job was advertised as a personal injury paralegal. So I went for it. And when I got the job, and when I actually started, it was actually in the civil litigation department. Um, and we mainly dealt with landlord and tenant disputes. It was super busy. I was running advice clinics all over North Nottingham, you know, in legal advice centres. I had absolutely massive exposure to cases, running my own files, appearing in court. It was really, really great hands-on experience, and I cannot big up smaller firms enough for, you know, giving training contracts and paralegal positions, because they're smaller, you do get the opportunity, or more of an opportunity, to have more hands-on experience and get involved running your own files and things like that, I would say, over a lot of the larger firms. So I'm not going to lie, court used to really freak me out. I used to get really bad anxiety. Um, so I used to over prep. I wouldn't sleep the night before. So it just wasn't really worth it to me. And I just didn't enjoy the whole court experience. And as part of my training contract, I had to do some non contentious work. So I got moved into the property department. And to be honest, it was totally my vibe, non contentious, didn't have to go to court every day. Or, you know, when I was in crime, police station, I'm the type of person that likes to plan my day. So I like to know what I'm doing. I have a list, I tick things off, I feel so much better at the end of the day once, you know, all of those things on the list are ticked off. And in, you know, litigation, in crime, you can get called out to court or the police station at any point of the day. And for me, I just felt so unsettled. I couldn't work like that. Um, so I loved being in property. Um, the team that I worked with was absolutely mint. I've actually been really lucky. Most of the teams that I've, if not all of the teams that I've worked with in practice, have been amazing. But this particular team, probably my all-time ultimate favorite team that I've worked with. Um, I worked with them for about 3 or 4 months, maybe a bit longer. Um, and then I qualified as a solicitor in September 20, no, September 2013. My God, Jesus, that's ages ago now. So yeah, I qualified in September 2013. I'd been in the property department, like I say, for about 3 or 4 months. Felt really settled. And then I got asked to move to a completely different office. Um, and I was pretty much on my own in the sense that there was no other solicitor doing property law at that office. It was just me, who I felt, you know, pretty newly qualified. Well, I was, and part-time secretary. And it was probably one of the hardest things I have ever had to do. I was completely thrown in the deep end, and it really was a case of sink or swim. Um, I was determined to make it work, and the hours that I worked were absolutely ridiculous. Um, Late nights, early mornings, um, and for not a lot of money. I remember I was on about 24 grand a year, and I had my own place at the time because I'd not long split up with my boyfriend, and I had a mortgage, and I could pay my mortgage, but I couldn't afford very much other stuff on top of that. And I remember my mum and dad having to pay for my food shop every week, and I'd think to myself, I'm a fully qualified solicitor. Like, how can I not afford to buy like my own food every week? Um, so I started to look around, started to see, you know, what other jobs were out there. And I remember going for the interview to the second firm that I worked for, third firm that I worked for. And I remember the recruitment agent guy saying, I'm not actually sure you should go for this job. They want 3 years PQE, so 3 years qualified experience, and I hadn't got that. And I thought, oh, you know what? I like the sound of the job. I'm just going to go for it. So I went for the interview and I got the job. So I guess the moral of that story is, even if you think you don't have the experience, you know, that's listed in the job description, if you like the look of it, if it takes your fancy, go for it, because you just never know. You've got absolutely nothing to lose. So yeah, I went for that, got it, and it was for at that time a lot more money, and I could actually afford to buy my own food, which was great. Didn't have to rely on my mum and dad to bail me out every month for the food shop. And again, loved working there. That team, absolutely great. Got on really well. Learned so much from them. Had a right laugh as well. They were so funny. Um, but this job was about an hour away. An hour commute if I was lucky. And it was starting to get to me. By the time I got to the office, I was pissed off and I wanted to go home. Um, so I kept in contact with the previous team that I worked with, and they contacted me and said that there was head of conveyancing coming up. So spoke to the managing partner, and I went back. To be honest, that firm felt like home. I think it still does feel like home. I still pop in every so often to see the team, and yeah, it feels so, just friendly, warm when you go in the doors, safe. They were like a family, and I still see them as a family. I will be forever thankful for what they did for me and the opportunities that they gave me there. Um, but it was just very difficult to get recognised for a promotion there. Um, and I do hate to say this, but I think it is true. I think the reason why it was so difficult to get a promotion was because I was a female. Um, all the equity partners, all the commercial department partners were white male. Um, I do think they had a problem with diversity at the start. But over the years, and from when I started to when I look at the firm now, they have overcome that problem. But at the time when I was there, I was frustrated. Um, so I got approached by a partner of another firm, which was more local to me, and they offered me a associate position, close to home, more money, absolute no brainer. Again, hate to say it, but we go to work to make money, and what's convenient for us. You can't 100% be loyal to your employer. If you leave, they will replace you. So at the end of the day, you do have to do what's best for you. So after 2 years, I left. Um, at times, yeah, I do think it was maybe a mistake to leave again. But I think there were other reasons why I left as well. Um, I was starting to not like the job. So I think I was searching for something to make me happy in my work again. And I thought, this is a senior position, it's more money, it's close to home. I thought it would fulfill that. Um, the new firm was great, it was nice, it was good, it was a really good firm, but it wasn't always made out, wasn't what it was made out to be, should I say. Um, and when I joined, it was just before COVID. So I think I was there maybe 6 months, and COVID hit. And we all know what the rule is: last in, first out. So yeah, I got made redundant. And looking back, I do think it was a knee jerk reaction from the firm. Yeah, at first, no one could move house. The market stalled completely. But then when the government stepped in with the, reduction in stamp duty, to encourage the market to build again, everyone was just rushed off their feet. So yeah, I think really they should have probably just stuck us on furlough for a bit. But you know, everything happens for a reason. Um, Weirdly, I didn't feel scared when I got made redundant. Yep, I had a mortgage. I think maybe what made me feel a little bit safer was the fact that I was paid 3 months redundancy, and also deep down, I did know I would get another job. Um, so I applied for a few jobs pretty much straight away, and I got a job straight away, which was great. But I couldn't start until the 3 months redundancy had finished. So I had 3 months at home, full pay in the sunshine. Can't really complain about that. But I also saw this as a new opportunity to start something different. Like I said, I wasn't particularly enjoying the job at the time. Um, I did apply for a few other jobs, non-legal, just completely different stuff, really, but wasn't successful. Had no experience, and obviously, the whole economy was just in chaos, wasn't it, at the time? So I think I had to stick to law. But I did at the time, whilst I was off for those 3 months, start my own business. I started a drop shipping business. So I did a course, built my own website, and I started selling, and I really enjoyed it. I think I more enjoyed the creative side of, doing the course, building the website, because I do like learning new things. It was a slow start. So obviously I needed money. So I started back at work as a solicitor. And this firm was a conveyancing factory. It was like nothing I'd experienced before. It was actually insane. The workload was crazy. I'm used to hard work. I'm used to a big caseload. But Jesus Christ, it was mad, absolutely mad. It gave me anxiety, to be honest. I had to stop the drop shipping. I couldn't do both at the same time. So I sold the website. Um, sold the website, and you know what I did? I went back to where I felt safe again. So I went back to the firm that I trained at. Um, yeah, it was embarrassing a little bit to go back, and I knew I was going to get absolutely ripped from some people there. And I did. I took it on the chin. I just kind of told myself that, well, I found it as a compliment, should I say. Um, they obviously liked me. They obviously thought I did a good job. I obviously didn't do anything wrong whilst I was there. Um, and they took me back. So, yeah, I went back again. And I went back on the basis that I would be a associate after a year. Um, it was a big thing for me to go back. Like I say, it was embarrassing, a little bit. But I needed to get out of where I was for my own sanity. Um, but I didn't particularly like the job anymore. And I kind of came to the realization that it wasn't the firm that was the problem always. It was the job. Um, honestly, because I realized it was the job and not the firm, I thought I would stay at this particular firm until I retired. Obviously, by this time, I'd become an associate. Um, but I'd lost my motivation, I'd lost my interest, and it just wasn't me. And I didn't even last 2 years there again. I needed to do something different. I needed, like I say, a new challenge. I really took the time to think about what I wanted to do. Lecturing has always been on the radar. Um, I didn't think I'd get into it so soon in my career. I thought I'd maybe, be in my late 40s or something before I started lecturing. But one day I had a really bad day at work, and I got home and I thought, oh, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to look to see what's out there. I'm done. Um, I looked online at some jobs, and the advert for lecturer was on there. And I had applied to be a lecturer a few years back, but I wasn't successful. Don't think I had enough experience in practice or academia. But this time I just felt ready. Obviously, I've got quite a lot of experience behind me. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to apply. And I had to apply that night because the cut off, the deadline was that day. So it was fate, I think. So I applied, I got an interview, and I literally shit my pants. I almost didn't do it. I came up with all sorts of excuses like, you hate public speaking. So what makes you think you could be a lecturer? And I did hate public speaking. I was, quite shy in, a group of people. Um, but my dad was like, you've got to do this. You've got nothing to lose. You've just got to go for it. You've wanted to do this for a long time, so just go for it. So I chatted to a mate who was already a lecturer. She gave me some really good advice. And I went to the interview and I got the job. So I had to hand my notice in again. And I felt physically sick. I thought, oh God, they've made me an associate and now I'm going again. Handed my notice in. But I knew this time I couldn't go back. I could not go back a third time and work for this firm. And here I am. I'm a lecturer, teaching undergrad, postgrad, personal tutor, apprenticeship, mentor, and I'm going into my 4th year of lecturing, and I absolutely love it. Looking back, I can honestly say I don't regret anything that I've done. I've learned so much along the way, gained a hell of a lot of experience, and I've made lifelong friends from each firm that I've worked at. Like I say, I'm really hoping I can get a lot of these women on to the podcast, so you guys can meet them as well, hear their experiences, hear their journey, get some top tips off them. What I would say with regards to my top tips, and I think I've kind of been given them as I've been going along, but one of them is it's not what you know, it's who you know. So get networking, guys. Get out there, meet some new people in formal settings and informal settings. So bear that in mind. Also, even if you think you haven't got the experience for a particular job, like I say, if it takes your fancy, if you think you can do it anyway, go for it. You've got absolutely nothing to lose at all. Another thing that I would say is everyone's journey is different. Everyone's journey is unique. Don't compare yourself to others, okay? Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I'll see you next time.